Welcome back folks, my name is LastKnownMeal, and yesterday I finished watching The Witcher Season 3 on Netflix, at least first 5 episodes, because last 3 are coming on July 27th I believe, so when that comes out I will have one more video to round everything up. Also, I will be going through some spoilers in this and previous seasons, so you have been warned. And to be honest, the reason why this video is so late is because I didn't have too much motivation to watch the show. After terrible narrative and character decisions they have made in the second season, my interest for it went down a lot. And on top of that, having Henry leave the show was cherry on top. But at the same time, I didn't want to hate watch this, so I gave it a chance to see what it has, but of course my hype for it was zero. And after finishing all 5 episodes, it is really sad to see that they didn't really make an effort to fix the problem the show has, which we'll talk about, but rather to continue doing it in the way they usually did and somewhat trying to tie out loose ends and mistakes from the previous season. To go back to Season 2, we will go through a few changes. First off, atmosphere in Kaer Morhen was off. There was a lack of war between characters who are essentially family and the last breed of monster slayers. Instead, they added extras into the background to make it basically fill out space, because writers are not caring for source material. I mean, they couldn't understand how to do it properly. If you look at Kaer Morhen scene from The Witcher 3 where they go on a drinking spree, it has a lot more nuance and, well, warmth than anything Kaer Morhen wise in Netflix The Witcher. Then Vesemir trying to put mutagen into Ciri to make her go through Trial of Grasses, essentially using her blood also to make more Witchers. It doesn't make sense, and it's not representative of his character, especially going through Kaer Morhen burning, losing his friends and mentors, and he never actually wanted to re-establish Witchers, so he turned out to be off as a character. After that, we have Eskel's situation with him also dying to push the narrative forward and to establish character change. I mean, we can say the situation has escalated quite fast. And the final is Yen betraying Ciri, which Book Yennefer would never do, even with her being, Yen, especially at that point in time when they did know each other. Now, the reason why I mention this is because it ties into Season 3, and that's why it matters, where a lot of time has been spent to mend this relationship between Yen and Ciri, ultimately wasting time to move the story forward. And it's not really believable because the previous choice is not something you can easily forget or forgive, but for narrative purposes it has to be. That's why pacing is also off in this season. It's somewhat better than Season 2, but it still falls flat because they had to rush a lot of story events so they can, get Thanet, for example. And every single time in Season 1 and Season 2, pacing issues were just always a problem, and they just cannot fix them with how they're running the show right now, especially narrative decisions they are making. Because, as I said, this creates confusion for both narrative and time passage, where sometimes they made things feel like they are very close, and seems to me like some characters in the show can fly at max speed. That includes separating Yen, Ciri and Geralt and then reuniting them, and because of those restrictions writers have where they cannot do pacing well and focus on unnecessary scenes for too long, necessary scenes suffer. Having proper story priorities should be number 1 on the list, but it's all over the place all the time. And look, it's important to have character traits, both good and bad, on point, so it doesn't hurt the character. Sadly, writers don't care, so characters are gonna be jumping from one thing to another. They're going to be one thing, then in the next episode they're going to be something else. It's just not logical in any way, shape or form, and we as an audience cannot really establish ourselves and what we think about that character properly. A clear example is with Vesemir and Radovid, his younger brother. Yes, in the show he is his younger brother and not his son. Also, Vesemir acts like a total child. Radovid is also not better at all and not far off, like at all. And again, their character traits fell off, and more like jesters of court rather than serious kings or princes. Radovid is also older now and is having this also relationship slash spark slash romance with Jaskier. You see where I'm going with this, doesn't make much sense to characters and the story or lore-wise in particular, but they're pretty much freestyling at this point when it comes to the writing team. The miscasting is also present again. I mean, I don't know why people expected anything else. They're pretty much different than what they are described in the books, but like I said before, even with the casting that they do write, let's say their personality traits are very much off. And I mean, a lot of those actors, a lot of those actors are theater related, so in general they have talent and mechanisms to portray those characters well. The problem is direction and writing is not following that, so it ultimately falls apart and is not believable whatsoever. If we were to talk about cinematography, music and fight choreography, that was good. I mean, fighting in general is done nicely because, for example, Wolfgang Stegemann returned and he is a great stunt coordinator. He was actually in charge for that fighting scene in the first season. Editing though, well, that's questionable, not in the way it's wrong, but because of those, limitations of story and time, it was all over the place when it came to transitioning where characters are, but again, that's on writing and directing department. Another character I want to talk about is Gallatin, a new character from Netflix because why not, let's freestyle, and he is an elf who is supposed to portray this more war side of Scoia'tael, but he turned out to be just a grunt and very much flat character with no proper ambitions or logic to what they do. You can have someone like that, but they cannot be one-sided and basically shell of a character. And for the end, Henry again did what he does, and that's to portray the characters well. I mean, even with Anya Chalotra and Freya Allen portraying Ciri and Yennefer, I got used to them. But the problem is, the writing team is just off, and you just cannot do it well. That also goes across every single actor and every single character in the show. And also for Henry, but when you see him portraying this character well, and he is leaving, which means problems on set, that pours onto the viewers and they cannot fully immerse themselves because they know he is done with this after the season ends. So it will be interesting to see how they actually pull off the end of season 3. We will know that soon, but I don't see a point in it, to be honest. And everything you are trying to do to kind of fix the show or not doesn't matter in the end. And what a sad end to all of this. It's not really that pains me, watching the show, but it pains me what the show could have been. The next big thing, because you had the source material, you had everything in front of you. Pick and choose between so much to make it good, but ultimately you didn't want to and now is falling apart. Also a big question is if I will watch season 4. Well, I don't know, maybe just out of curiosity, but it's too early to say. I mean, the trailer is going to arrive eventually for it. For me right now, I'm just waiting to see the rest of this season, but tell me down below in the comments, what do you think about this? I'm very interested to hear what people have to say. Also, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more, because that's pretty much everything I have for it. Everything else I will round up after the next episodes come out, but for now, yeah, this is pretty much it. So if you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and like the video for more. Also, huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters, and I will see you very soon with another Cyberpunk video. Stay classy, bye bye.